leadership doesn't mean having all the answers.
Business is messy and unpredictable.
Sometimes lonely.
So lonely.
So lonely.
And inspiration can often come from really weird places.
We pick up where the bullet point blogs and the highlight reels leave off.
We start with the stories. So here's my story. This is actually, I could tell multiple stories, but I'm just going to tell one, or I might verge into the second one. So my kids' orthodontist has been closed, obviously. Like they're only open for emergencies. My poor son, by the way, got his braces Christmas Eve, went to one appointment like January 1st, and like hasn't gotten to see an orthodontist. So he's sitting with braces for months that are doing nothing. That we're just losing time, but he's having braces in his mouth and having to deal with it. So really stinks.
Which is, not to pass this by, but a great Christmas and New Year's for.
Oh, I know, right? It was like the only day we could get in there to do it. So, so we're trying to figure out like what's the next step. He has no wires left on, so they're just like sitting there, and some of the things are getting loose. And so I keep checking back with the orthodontist. Keep thinking I've missed an email, I've missed posts. Like, just what's the state of the union with the orthodontist office? So I go check my emails. Last email I have from them is like April, I think, April 26th. And it says, just to let you know, we're going to stay closed through May 5th or whatever the projected out date was. And we'll let you know after that. But currently it's June 23rd when we're recording this. No emails since then. Not an email.
Oh, really?
No. You go to their website. There's no like pop-up. There's no banner that says like projected opening date. This date, it's just their regular website. You call their office, it just says we're currently closed, like blah, 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 if it's not an emergency. So there's just no acknowledgement of the fact that a lot of people are trying to figure out, like, when do I book and when should I project that this is happening? So then it says like, we'll update you on social media. So you go to social media, and they recently, they announced that one of their offices has reopened, and somebody even said like, hey, how about this office, which is the one where I go? And they responded, oh, we're working on that. More updates soon. That was 3.5 weeks ago. And here's the thing. In this time right now, I am massively empathetic to the fact that there's so much that people just don't know. Like, I don't know when we're going to open. We're waiting on things we have no control over. I don't have a lot of answers right now. And this has come up with a lot of my clients where there are things that they are unsure of, that they have to wait and find out how this is going to work before they know if that can happen. And all these moving parts, there's a lot of uncertainty. But I think there's this weird, because I've seen through to the conversations that happen about these communications that I'm not getting from like my orthodontist, or this thing we were trying to order that we don't know when it's coming, and that, which is the second story I'm not going to tell. But I think there's this weird thing where there's a perception that if you don't have a definitive statement to make, that you should wait until you have information to communicate with people. And I think that's a weird misperception, because sometimes people need to know, like, it's okay to say, we don't know yet. But we haven't forgotten about you. We know you exist. We know this thing is waiting, and we don't know yet.
Okay, well, and I agree with that. Look, to back up, I think that in any time of uncertainty, whether it's an uncertain time within your organization or, like we're faced with, a global uncertainty time, there is a heightened need for two things. One is communication, which was pointed out by your story, and I'll circle back to that. The second, to me, is decision making.
Yes.
And
yes.
Here's what I mean by that. I wholeheartedly agree with you that silence is not the answer. Leaving customers, leaving clients, leaving employees wondering what's going on, or even if you're thinking about it, or if this is a blip on your radar screen, or if something's coming. I mean, that's just a mistake. So with no updates, particularly with even the simplest things in life, is this pet store were open so I can get dog food?
Right.
Well, I don't know that now because of COVID, so I have to check. So every single thing is uncertain. So some communication and with services like your orthodontics, it's perfectly fine to say, hey, We get that you're trying to reach us. We don't yet know because we're trying to figure out X, Y, and Z. We'll keep you updated. And that's what you need. Where I go into the decision-making part of things is on the other side of this, I've gotten frustrated because I've gotten a lot of emails and messages from a number of people, including colleges and deans, et cetera, because where David is, saying we don't know. And that's fine. You don't know. I get all the intricacies. But after the fourth we don't know email, you need to make a decision.
Okay,
Or there has to be a deadline by which you make a decision, because I've got other things that are we even going to be paying tuition to attend this semester? Because we're not if it's completely online. Right. Travel plans and leases and all that stuff. So I think at some point a leader has to accept that I'm not going to have the answers. Ask the question, what has to happen for me to actually make a decision? Fair point. The answer is a vaccine that is globally taken, right, and just make the damn decision.
Right. Yeah, no. So apparently your porridge is too hot and my porridge is too cold and Goldilocks somewhere in between. No, I hear you. And the other part to it though is I don't always need to know an answer. Like there's certain things that people do need definitive answers on for sure. And for those, sometimes as a leader of a thing, you have to make imperfect decisions, even when you don't know much detail to actually, it can feel like you're just rolling a dice. You're like, okay, I have to make a decision. Lick finger, hold in air. I guess we'll say yes.
Okay.
In the absence of any useful information, I choose B.
And it doesn't even have to be a permanent decision. It could be for the next 4 weeks, this is what's going to happen.
Yes, exactly. And so I think there's also just all I want to know with the examples that made me want to do this podcast. I want to know what you do know. Because they're not in a complete vacuum of any True. Piece of information. So they may right. say, and honestly, because I'm somebody who just likes to understand things, I would feel better if they said, we're trying to figure out, we're waiting on, for instance, my kid, my poor son, has everything he needs to get his driver's license. He is a very disciplined driver. He's done his 60 hours. All he has to do is ride with the Greg's driving guy one more time, and then he can take his test. Because in Maryland, you have to have like 6 hours, I think, with an instructor. And he has one more supervised instructor drive, and then he can go take his test. So it's a huge barrier. And they're not available yet. And that's frustrating because they just reopened in June. So at least that's sort of moving in the right direction. But they don't have any dates available though when you go to schedule, but it says we are slowly bringing back our drivers. We don't have as many, they don't go into great detail, but the subtext I got was, I think some of their drivers who were laid off went and got other jobs and they don't have something like that. Cause they said, we're trying to bring on new instructors, additional instructors to have more things. We'll make an announcement the 1st of July. So total unknown. They don't know when or how many slots they're going to have. They don't know when those slots, slots might get all swooped up and still won't be August, but at least they're just saying, here's what we're waiting on. Here's what we're trying to understand. Here's what the barrier is. And at least then I can find some empathy for it. I do want to hit another topic though, that I think is really interesting.
Okay. But before you go on, let me just say this with the driver's ed thing. They have one known that they have is that they're going to, when they come back or as they come back, they have limited time slots. They have fewer time slots than they have people wanting to fill them. And so another decision they can make is how we're going to allocate those.
Yeah. Could we get on a wait list even, maybe?
Is it a wait list? Is it first come, first served, like concert tickets? You have to be online at 7 p.m. on this particular date.
We are checking every morning at 6 a.m. That is actually now a family, routine.
Or in the movie, I don't know whether you saw this, but in the movie Contagion, which recently became very popular again because of COVID, they came out with a vaccine. And at the end, you saw just this little part of it. They knew they had a finite supply, so they were doing it like the draft was for Vietnam. They were saying, okay, now everybody with a birthday, and they'd have like a lottery system of March 12th. Mm-hmm. Then you're eligible. But at least there was you knew what the system was.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So just as opposed to this just complete, I'm so frustrated with the orthodontics. They're so, it's so complete lack of any information whatsoever, which, because he's so new in it, makes me want to go seek out another orthodontist. But side note, we've been paying monthly because we had an installment set up for Turner's braces, which started in December, and he's been there once, but every month they're deducting our
well, at least that's still working, right?
Yeah, so that's still working. So now we're like 6-8 months into payments. So I don't think they're going to give those back. So we may be stuck with them, but that's a whole other episode. Here's an interesting thing though. They could be using this time and this unknown to be actually building a lot of trust instead of just irritating the bejesus out of me, because they could be sending out emails like, if this is a problem with your braces, here's, a thing. Like I have a friend who had a hair salon, and while it was not possible to do, to cut people's hair, she did a couple videos for Facebook about here's the most basic way to cut your teenage boy's hair, like a men's haircut, the most basic, nothing fancy, nothing, she's not going to do some crazy female haircut or something, but here's the basics of how you do a basic haircut. And that was really helpful. Is that going to replace her business? No, but it gives people a little bit. And, I think some dog grooming people did similar kinds of things. Like, here's a couple tricks to at least get the important, the hair off of your dog's eyes without stabbing them in the eyeball, those kinds of things. And you can actually use the unknown to support people. And, or just to even acknowledge what they're going through. Even if my orthodontist sent out a thing that said, this must be so frustrating for your kids who, are clocking 6 more months of having braces in their mouth, but not making any progress. And, here's a silly video to make you smile. I don't know. It's kind of lame, but at least it acknowledges the emotional experience of just sitting here with nothing. But it's like they forget we exist or something.
Well, I do think, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's not just the updates, it's not just the decision making and communication. What you were talking about is the vital part of it, which is the empathy, demonstrating the empathy that you can actually see the world through your clients, your customers' eyes. You can understand the frustration they're experiencing. And so many of the communications that I've received are really designed to tell you, the customer, the frustration I'm experiencing, right? I know if you're a restaurant, I know that you can't open. I know that your servers and your bartenders and your staff are over here, and I know that you're struggling with delivery and takeout to support your business model. I get all that, and I really do. It's a hard-hit industry. But on other things, I want you, particularly in orthodontics or professional services or what have you, I want you to understand banks, for example. I want you to understand the frustration that I'm feeling. So if you do that, at least I know that the decisions you're trying to make are the decisions that I'm hoping you make.
Right. Or that you're at least thinking about it. If my orthodontist, if they even said, we've opened this office, our current plan is these 2 offices will open next, followed by the other one. Even if I found out that mine's going to open last, at least I would know I can watch for these 2 things to happen, and then that will happen. I don't feel like my level of need for information is extremely high. It feels like even just a little bit of, hey, here's where it is. We I guess I will tell this story. We pre-ordered these lights for this little indoor farm stand growing thing that we got for herb gardens and whatnot. Don't make that face.
Oh, you said farm. I thought you said farm stand rowing. ROWING.
Oh, growing. No,
and
farm stand.
What is a farm stand rowing thing? That's like a workout and farm to table thing.
No. Yeah, exactly. You can you can burn off the calories as you eat them. No, it's like a hydroponic growing thing called a farm stand. And they have because it's indoor, we need lights. And they have these cool lights that they have designed that integrate right into the thing. So you don't have this spider Medusa of weird grow lights around it. And, we really want those. But I'm sure they're having issues with their supply chain. Everything's a little chaotic right now. So I have empathy about where they are, but they were originally saying, they would be available midsummer. Meanwhile, we're trying to decide whether we buy additional lights or we wait. I don't want to buy additional lights and then these come out 2 weeks later. I'll be bummed. So, but we keep waiting and waiting. And I'm like, well, now it's June 23rd and they haven't said anything. So I'm guessing they're not going to show up July 15th or there'd be some kind of warning. So I'm assuming it's further out, but I'm having to make all these guesses. And that's where I start to get a little resentful about not having some kind of update. So I actually emailed them and I so rarely it wasn't really even a complaint. I just said, look, if it's going to be December, that's great. I'll buy lights now. We might still buy yours. I don't know. But if it's going to be end of summer, I'm going to be really, irritated if I buy them now and then they come like 3 weeks later. And she said, this is the funny thing. She wrote back, she said, I said, your people on your wait list could, just use a little bit of an update. She goes, we're working on that soon. And this is what prompted me to text you that I wanted to do this episode. We're working on that soon. As soon as we know when they're available, we're going to let everybody know an update. I said, thanks for missing the point. Like you could send out an update because she goes, still on track for end of summer. And I'm like, oh, that is before you said midsummer. So end of summer is an update. You know that. So in your mind, that's where it's been. But you forget that you didn't externally communicate that it has moved from midsummer to end of summer. That has not yet been communicated. And so I just think it's
and a lot of times, I had the same experience with there's an app called Scrivener, which is an app for it's basically Microsoft Word, but it's reimagined for writers.
Right.
From a company called Literature and Latte, and the early editions of Scrivener were just fantastic. If you're writing things from fiction to speeches to I used it for my class. But they've been working on an update for Windows. They already have their version 3 for Mac, which is really supposed to be great. But I'm Windows based, so I've been waiting for this. So they've been sending updates occasionally, and their last update was the second to last, the penultimate update was we will have Scrivener 3 for Windows out by September 1st. This was September 1st last year.
Of last year, okay.
Of last year. And I was, great, it's my birthday. And I was really going to get it for,
also my birthday, for those of you who have not been with us for a while.
And so around September 15th, they came out and they said, no, here are all the problems that we're still working to track down. So it's probably not going to be until 2020, but we're talking about weeks, not months, and that's fine. And now we're at June 23rd, and there's been no update since we're looking at the first couple weeks of 2020. And so I've just been irritated by this. And it's very popular. They've got a lot on their blogs, a lot of a really good community of people who are dedicated to this product. And it's been irritating me. And if they had, just like with the grow lights, if they had said, we've now moved the target and we're aiming for September 1st of 2020, okay, then that's something.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't mean you'll be thrilled with that, but at least then you stop going, hey, where's that thing? And hey, maybe it'll be here soon. And so we've been talking exclusively about external communications, which only some people are really in a position to affect or work on. But I don't want to skip over how important this is for internal communications. Everything we said is also important. And it's been so interesting. I have this one client that since the pandemic hit, since people are working remotely, every Friday, he's the CEO, every Friday he just sends out this message from the CEO. Sometimes there are substantive business thing, occasionally, I should say, its purpose is not like, here's the company update on 10. I'm using my company business series.
Your brow is furrowed. This is the company voice.
It's not, like the pure business updates. It is, sometimes there are some of those things included, but more often than not, what he has almost exclusively done is just based on how the week has been feeling or what's going on in the world, he's just kind of acknowledged what's going on. There was one that said, I think most of us are kind of finding our pace and, blah, blah, blah. He did one on, acknowledging that, to make sure you take breaks and just kind of saying like there's a lot of uncertainty, and just sometimes he tells a story. And it's so interesting to me because he has gotten so many emails in return from people saying how much they value feeling noticed, and they feel like they're not just a number, and they feel more connected to the company than they ever have, and they look forward to that message. And it has just rammed home for me more than ever how important it is just simply this like very minimal act of acknowledging the experience of being a human in an experience, like the human experience of a thing, is such a powerful tool as a leader. Versus, and this is not my client, but I heard a horror story of a company that sent out one of these surveys about how's everybody feeling about coming back. Are you comfortable?
Right.
When it's possible, do you, or would you rather work from home? Are you comfortable this, whatever? People responded honestly as asked. And then I don't know if it was the owner of the company, someone in charge sent out an email that I am only a tiny bit exaggerating. In fact, this might not be exaggerating at all. It said something to the effect of, "You guys are losers." Like I was shocked that you're all being so like, it basically said like, you're using this excuse to work from home instead of to come in and do your jobs.
Nice.
I mean, it's literally like the most psychologically bad choice that you could do for your people. You ask them to be honest, and then you make fun of their choices. So not that.
So there are a couple of things that I want to go back to, and then I'll address the survey. One was,
which is a complete different. Has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I just wanted to.
Well, no, it does. It has the internal communication. But when you said that your client who's sending out the weekly messages from the CEO, the important thing, as you had pointed out, is that he or she, I don't know, but makes an effort to make sure that the employees are seen. There's a difference between that tone and just make sure that they're doing their jobs. Like,
right.
Like you're really hitting your billable hour numbers, or you're really making your sales calls, or that's not seeing them as human beings going through this. That's just making sure that your tools, your profit-making tools, are still staying sharp. And
yes.
that's a very different thing. So yeah, I certainly agree with a tone of genuine empathy.
Mm-hmm. And but some of that has been, and the reason I brought that up, and I didn't directly say this, is that prior to him starting that, because he didn't start it the very first week, there were all these, when are we going to know? Like there was this
Right.
anxiety of like wanting to know more information. Information has not come, decisions have not come at any more rapid of a pace since these emails have been going out. But just the fact that people feel like they haven't been forgotten. They're not just like off on some island, the way I feel with my orthodontist. I'm like, do they even remember? Like, are they even considering how this is from this side? Has almost like, there's very little of that hubbub. And so those two things are just related, I think.
No, I think they are. And going back to the survey, I've seen a number of companies stumble on these surveys of their employees, even their clients. I haven't seen any that have just, castigated the results and gotten really angry at the results or cast aspersions because of it. But I have seen surveys that don't have the Goldilocks factor. So, in schools, we got a survey for a school district for Alex, who's a rising senior in high school, saying basically, would you be comfortable coming back, or do you want all online? We're like, well, there seems to be a lot of middle ground. And so these surveys, if they're meaningful in decision making, I think they have to really, again, understand how the people who are receiving it see the world and the various shades of gray there.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the communication lies. I think that it doesn't lie in having the answers, and we did an episode on that. Leadership doesn't mean having all the answers.
No.
But it absolutely does mean communicating with empathy and being transparent in the process of finding the answers. So that's our story.
But the discussion doesn't have to end here.
No, it does not.
In fact, we don't want it to.
No, we don't.
That is why we actually have our private Facebook group,
which we started to make sure that we could get your comments, your rants, your thoughts,
your stories.
Your stories.
You can find links to that group as well as show notes and links to subscribe via email and how to find us just about anywhere you can possibly find podcasts at sohere'smystory.com.
And you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at SHMS Podcast.
And since we know it takes a village.
Yes, it does.
We'd like to thank our village, our super talented, incredibly patient team.
And occasionally snarky team.
Yeah, but in the best of ways.
In the best
Lovingly
of ways.
Snarky.
Yes.
Good mockery.
So a huge shout out to the people who actually help us produce our show. First, our sound engineer, Tom Hansen.
Thanks to Christy Schmier for our brilliant show notes and all the other fantastic writing she does for us.
And to Taylor Mathauer for doing just a little bit of everything.
Including wrangling us. Which is no small feat.
No, it's not.
This is Jody Hume.
And I'm Elliot Wagenheim.
And you've been listening to So Here's My Story.